Imagine living in a remote farmhouse, miles away from your nearest neighbor. Now imagine discovering footprints in the snow leading to your home, but none leading away. You search everywhere. No one is there. But deep down, you know someone is watching you. Someone is waiting. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. This is what happened to the Gruber family in 1922, and what came next would become one of the most disturbing unsolved murders in history. Before we dive into this nightmare, let me paint you a picture of just how isolated this place was. The Hinterkaifeck farm wasn't just in the countryside. It was 43 miles north of Munich, surrounded by nothing but fields and dark forests. The nearest neighbor was almost a mile away. If you screamed for help, no one would hear you. If something happened, you were on your own. The Hinterkaifeck farm sat in the Bavarian countryside in Germany, isolated and surrounded by dense forest. It was home to Andreas Gruber, his wife, Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her two children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. They lived a simple life, working the land, far from the troubles of the outside world. But in the days leading up to March 31st, 1922, Andreas noticed something strange. He found footprints in the snow. They came from the forest and led straight to his farmhouse. But here's what made his blood run cold. There were no footprints leading back out. Someone had walked to his house and never left, or at least they hadn't left the way they came in. Andreas searched the entire property, the barn, the attic, every room in the house. Nothing. No sign of anyone. But the footprints were there, clear as day in the fresh snow. He told his neighbors about it, but what could they do? Maybe it was just a traveler who got lost. Maybe it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Andreas heard sounds coming from the attic. Footsteps above his head when everyone was downstairs. Strange noises in the night. Then his house keys went missing. Just vanished. A few days later, they mysteriously reappeared in the same place he'd already checked a dozen times. Someone was playing with them, letting them know they were there. The family's maid was so terrified that she quit. She refused to stay another night in that house. She told people the farm was haunted, that she heard whispers and felt like someone was always watching her. She claimed she heard footsteps when no one was there, voices in empty rooms. The other villagers thought she was being dramatic, but she knew something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. Andreas had to hire a new maid, a woman named Maria Baumgartner. She was only 44 years old, starting fresh at a new job. She had no idea what she was walking into. She arrived on the farm on March 31st, 1922, probably nervous but excited for her new position. It would be her first and last day of work. She would be dead within hours. That evening, something horrible happened. One by one, the family was lured to the barn. Andreas went first, probably to check on the animals before bed. Then Cecilia, his wife. Then Victoria and young Cecilia followed. We don't know exactly how it happened, but we know they were attacked with a mattock, a farming tool like a pickaxe. The killer struck them down in the barn, one after another. The 2-year-old, little Joseph, was still in the house, asleep in his crib. The new maid, Maria, was also inside. The killer walked back into the house and murdered them too. 6 people, an entire family, wiped out in one night. But here's where this story goes from horrifying to absolutely chilling. The bodies weren't discovered for 4 days. 4 entire days passed, and during that time someone was living in the house. The neighbors noticed smoke coming from the chimney. The farm animals were fed and taken care of. Someone had eaten food from the kitchen. Neighbors reported seeing smoke rising from the farmhouse every single day. They assumed the family was home, going about their daily routine. But the family was dead, lying in the barn and in their beds, while someone else moved through their house like they owned it. Think about that for a moment. The killer didn't run, didn't panic, didn't flee into the night like you'd expect. No, they stayed. They lit fires to keep warm. They cooked meals in the family's kitchen. They fed the animals. They lived in that house with 6 dead bodies just feet away. When the bodies were finally discovered on April 4th, the police were called in. What they found painted a picture of absolute horror. The bodies in the barn had been covered with hay, like someone tried to hide them but didn't bother to hide them well. The little boy's body showed he had lived for several hours after the attack, lying there in pain, before he finally died. The killer had been in the house while this child suffered. The police investigated, of course. They interviewed over 100 people, but they found nothing. No clear suspect, no obvious motive. The case went cold almost immediately. Some people said it was a robbery gone wrong, but nothing valuable was taken. Others whispered it was revenge, that Andreas had made enemies. There were rumors about the family, dark secrets that people only spoke about in hushed voices. Victoria's husband had died in World War I, but some believed Andreas was actually the father of little Josef. The scandal, the shame. Maybe someone wanted to punish them. Investigators even brought in a psychic, a clairvoyant, hoping for any lead. They were that desperate. The psychic couldn't help. The case was frozen, as cold as those footprints in the snow. Years later, in 1967, the police reopened the case. New detectives looked at the old evidence with fresh eyes. They had a suspect, someone who knew the family. But he had an alibi, witnesses who said he was somewhere else that night. The case closed again. Still unsolved. Still a mystery. But none of these theories explain the most disturbing part. The footprints in the snow days before, the sounds in the attic, the missing keys, the maid who ran away in terror. Someone had been living in that house, hiding in the walls or the attic, watching the family, learning their routines, waiting for the perfect moment. Maybe they hid in the forest during the day and snuck back at night. Maybe they stayed in the attic the entire time, coming down only when the family was asleep. We'll never know. But they were patient. They were careful. And they knew that farm better than anyone realized. And after the murders, they stayed. They didn't just kill and run. They stayed in that house of death for 4 days, comfortable enough to cook food and tend to animals, surrounded by the bodies of the people they had just slaughtered. The Hinterkaifeck farm was eventually torn down. The land was sold. The case was never solved. To this day, no one knows who killed the Gruber family. No one knows why they stayed in the house afterward. And no one knows where they went when they finally left. What kind of person does this? What kind of mind could stay calm, could eat breakfast in a kitchen knowing there are bodies in the barn, could sleep in a bed while a murdered child lies in the next room? This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a moment of rage. This was calculated. This was someone who felt completely in control. Some experts believe the killer might have been a drifter, someone passing through who stumbled upon the isolated farm. But drifters don't stay for days. They don't tend to animals and keep up appearances. This felt personal. This felt like someone who wanted to take over their lives, to step into their shoes and play house with their things. Others think it was someone from the village, someone who knew the family's secrets and wanted them silenced forever. But who? And why? The investigation turned up dozens of suspects, but no real answers. Every lead went nowhere. Every theory had holes. The most terrifying part of this story isn't just the murders. It's the thought that someone could be that close, living in your walls, watching your every move, and you'd never know until it was too late. The Gruber family heard the footsteps. They saw the signs. They felt the fear. But by the time they realized the danger was real, it was already over. Even today, over 100 years later, people are still trying to solve this case. New theories pop up every few years. Someone claims they found new evidence, or a deathbed confession surfaces. But nothing ever checks out. Nothing ever brings justice to the Gruber family. This is the true story of Hinterkaifeck, a mystery that has haunted Germany for over 100 years. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous place isn't out there in the world. Sometimes it's right inside your own home. And sometimes the person you should fear the most is the one you never see coming. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe for more true horror stories that will keep you up at night. What do you think happened at Hinterkaifeck? Who was living in that house? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're brave enough, check out our other unsolved mystery videos. Thanks for watching, and remember to lock your doors tonight.